grade. We're going to continue with adjectives, and today we're going to talk about comparing with more and most. After we finish this lesson, you may complete page 57 of your language arts activity page, and here we go. All right, guys, let's talk about the rules of more and most when we're comparing adjectives. Rule number 1. For most adjectives of 2 or more syllables, add the words more or most to form the comparative and superlative. Rule number 2. Let's talk about the comparative form. We use more to compare to people, places, or things. Now the superlative form. We use most to compare more than to people, places, or things. All right, and rule number 3, do not use ER or EST when using more or most. And my favorite example to use with this, because I hear people do it all the time. You ever heard somebody say more better? Ugh, it's a pet peeve of mine. We never say more and add ER to the end of a word. We never say most and add EST to the end of not just any word, an adjective. All right, and let's look at some examples of using more and most. And I'm using the examples on your language arts activity page 57. Let's look at our first example using more. So this is the comparative form, more. Chinese people eat more grain than meat. All right, so we chose more there because how many things are we comparing? 2. We're comparing grain and meat. 2 things. So when we compare 2 things, we say more. All right, and the superlative example is, of all the different grains, rice is most popular. So we use most as superlative because how many things are we comparing? We're comparing grains, all the different kinds of grains. Are there more than 2 types of grains? Absolutely. So because we're comparing more than 2 things, we would say most. We would use the superlative. All right, let's look at part A on page 57 and read the instructions and do number 1 together. Part A, the instructions say, circle the letter of the correct comparative and superlative forms of the given adjective. All right, so number 1, the adjective is splendid. I love that adjective. So we have to choose if we would add ER, EST to the end of it, or if we would add more or most to the beginning of the word. And you'll see they made another mistake. This is 2 days in a row that we've had mistakes on our activity pages, right? We need to write them and tell them they need to proofread. All right, so A, splendider for the comparative form, splendidest. Do you see the mistake? There's no EST, it's just ES for the superlative form, or B, more splendid or most splendid. So which of those would you choose? They're both showing comparative and superlative forms, but what's the rule? Remember rule number 1, for most adjectives of 2 or more syllables, we add the words more or most. Splendid has how many syllables? 2. So because of that, we'll say more or most splendid. So you would circle the letter B. All right, let's look at part B. The instructions say write the correct form of the adjective in parentheses. So what you're going to have to do here is look at how many things you're comparing. If you're just comparing 2 things, you're going to use the comparative form. More than 2, you use the superlative form. Number 7 says China is one of the, and the adjective we're looking at is populated countries in the world. So we're comparing China to countries in the world. Is there more than one other country in the world? Yeah, there are many, many countries in the world, right? So we're comparing China to more than one thing. Okay, so we're comparing more than 2. So would we say more populated or most populated? We would say most populated, the superlative form. China is one of the most populated countries in the world. So on the line, you would write most populated. There is your lesson on comparing with more and most. You may now complete activity page 57. And of course, if you need any help or anything, or just have any questions, you know how to get in touch with me. And I hope you have a great day.